Amanda, you're chair. Sorry, Brianna, you're chairing, right?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I can once I arrive. I'm not physically moving yet. So go ahead and chair, Jennifer, if you can see the screen. Please and thank you.
Sure, absolutely. All right, until Brianna gets this, I will chair until she gets here. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the Girdwood Board of Supervisors special meeting regarding the HLB 1 and 5-year draft plans. This meeting, the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, its committees and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Alaska Municipal Code 1.25 Public Meetings. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meeting Standards of Conduct. My name is Jennifer. I'm the co-chair of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and also the land use supervisor. I'm not sure, Brianna, if it's difficult for you to unmute, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Amanda.
Amanda Sassy, Roads and Public Safety Supervisor.
This is Brianna Sullivan, co-chair and Fire Department Supervisor.
All right, and do we have Mike?
Yeah, Mike Edgington, Housing Economic Development Supervisor.
Okay, perfect. All right. So to start off with, do we have any disclosures? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'm going to move on to, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
And we need a second.
I'll second, Amanda.
Okay, excellent. Do we have any discussion or objections to approving the agenda as is? All right, I'm going to call that an approval by assent. A couple of announcements. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help the discussion stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public and keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. The 4-acre board training is Tuesday, February 27th. It's going to be from 6 to 8. This says after 5, but the 4-acre group has set from 6 to 8 in the Girdwood Community Room. I'll be meeting with them next week to firm up more details. The Girdwood Board of Supervisor and LUC joint meeting is set up for February 7th at 7 p.m. in the Girdwood Community Room. Just real quickly. Oh, right, and that's the Alyeska, right, excuse me, that's the Alyeska update. So moving on, agenda item number 1, our main item today. Reviewing the HLB 1 and 5-year draft plans and providing input by February 9th. And I think one logical place might be, correct me if I'm wrong here, board, but it might be perfectly logical to start with the electrical vehicle charging station question. We were asked for opinions on this at the joint MOA meeting with the MOA. And HLB has asked that we express an opinion if we have one. Does anybody want to speak to this? Actually, Kyle, could you maybe start on this?
Sorry.
If you go to the bottom of the packet and then scroll up, I think you'll.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm just gonna get to the information here. You know, we brought this up earlier in the year, and Tesla has approached the Girdwood community about the interest in installing a charger station here in Girdwood. And so what here is the diagram or a drawing of where the station is proposed to be, which would be in the park and ride and they would use the spots there in the middle of the island. And they also would create a pull-through here, which is at the top, for trucks pulling trailers. So for future EV trucks pulling trailers, they'd be able to park there. They have coordinated with Chugash. Chugash says this location is doable. And so from a construction feasibility, it does work for Chugash and Tesla to put the station here. They have one other station within Anchorage. They may actually have two now because I think they're thinking about one for Huffman, but they do show, to give you an idea here, it is in Town Square. You know, there's the park and ride. The power would come from this point connection. They would bore it, directional drill it over to this location. And so it actually would bring three-phase power across all these commercial lots so that if these lots were to develop someday, they would have a three-phase now in front that they could connect to. And then this is what it looks like up in Chugiak where they built a location there. Definitely during low snow. And so it would be in this location. The one thing we've had from maintenance and operation is that we would continue to clear the parking lot, but we would not handle any of the clearing around this. And this seems like something Tesla would contract out to have the area cleared around the charging units. But we wouldn't have any responsibility. Tesla would be responsible for all the maintenance of the facility. We would still be responsible for the maintenance of the parking lot as it currently stands. And so that is kind of idea. HLB wants to see if Girdwood feels that this is an item that they want within the community before they move forward or put any time into possible lease negotiations with them for the property. So that's what they are asking at this point in time.
Okay, so I don't know if either Brianna or Amanda can do hand raising. I don't know if you're on phones or if you can raise hands if you have something to say. So it might just be easier if people just jump in. Or Mike, I can start with you since you're in the room. Did you have any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, just quick, two things. First, are we expecting any updated plans or anything from Tesla to present to the community, or is it basically what they've presented so far is all we need?
That's all they don't have anything to update at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think they intend to, or do you think that the information we have is all the information we're going to get before it goes to HLB?
This is what they've submitted so far to HLB. So
Okay.
what you're seeing in front of you here is what they've submitted to HLB.
And a particular technical question, there's curb in that area.
Correct.
So is the charging stations would be beyond the curb?
They'd be on the back side of the curb
on
the island. It's
on the island. So that's what you mean by clearing. So they'd be responsible for clearing the island.
correct. And around their facility, their pedestals.
Right. So we would be responsible for clearing the pavement.
Correct. So along the curb line.
Yeah, up to the curb line. Okay. So, I mean, my sense that's the questions on the project. My sense is I feel a little bit rushed. I mean, I've got an opinion on it, but I feel a little bit rushed to make a decision now. And maybe when it actually comes to a real project is the time where we can sort of send it back through the community. But the alternative is, I think this is a reasonable use. And if we were going to discuss it and make a decision now, I'd probably be in favor of supporting this for inclusion in the 2024 one-year work program.
So I think that's what HLB is trying to determine is that if the community wants them to put energy towards this.
Right, but I think there's two slightly different questions. One is whether we do that now. I mean, we could support in principle, but I think it makes more sense for us to make a decision when we actually have the final information in front of us. That's why I want to understand if this is the final information. And it seems like it probably is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, in that case, I'd recommend that we go ahead and include this as one of our comments as something we would be in favor of, but I think we should vote on that.
Sure. You know, and so The one thing about this is that it could be a long uphill battle to, not battle, but basically through the bureaucracy of working with the municipal government and public lands, this could be a difficult thing to get pulled off. So we don't know until we get into it.
So I think I'll take that as a motion then. So I move that the GBOS supports the installation of electric charging station in that location.
I'll second. This is Amanda.
Okay, now that we have an official motion, Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering how much tearing out would the median have to be done for the construction? Would that nice landscaping have to go? Do you know?
They would be on the north end, which I'm pointing to here. If you can see with the cursor, that section would be torn out and then recurbed and then probably re-landscaped around. So that would have to be removed right there, which isn't a big impact. You know, the one thing about this island that we've been dealing with for years is that they put a lot of non-native trees in here. That have been slowly dying and breaking off. And so we've been trying to prune and keep them alive. But that particular section, we have paper birch in there and they've been, you know, with these winter lows, they bend over and break. So I think we're down to maybe 3 paper birches of the 6 that were put in there still left.
Great, thanks for that explanation. Also, if it was to be installed, would we be able to put in stricter parking limitations for the use of that charging station, or would it still be subject to the district court ruling, or you know what I'm talking about, right? The long-term parking situation we have going on.
That is still yet to be determined because that's still in process. You know, the Supreme Court just said that they're going to be hearing an appeal on that. So and the policies and procedures are right now being worked out with the municipality. So it's yet to determine how those things will change here over the coming months.
Thank you.
Brianna, I definitely want to get to you and ask you, and I do see that we have a hand up, but I wanted to ask a follow-up question on Amanda's there, Kyle. I am curious in a related way if it's, as I understand it, then if we're maintaining the pavement, we're maintaining that to keep it clear. Looking at the proposal, one of our responsibilities is to keep those spots clear for charging. And I'm curious if you have any kind of idea or estimate of kind of time and money and expense that might entail for the community.
Well, that area is part of our normal rotation in the mornings. You know, we go through and clear that area like we do the rest of town square and the parking spaces. So it shouldn't change for us. It actually might be easier because we probably would reduce the curb line in there. Right now, the curb line all of a sudden takes a 90 right there where that truck charging station would be. And so it makes it easier for us to push the snow instead of having to back drag out and clear out. You know, right now that area is a mess. We can't actually really do very proper operation removal in there. So snow's all over, but normally when it's clear and it's open like the rest of town square, it's easier for us to be clean. So I think it may make us a little bit more efficient by taking part of that island out.
And do you think it's going to have a significant impact on kind of the camping community there?
I have no idea. It depends on the policies and procedures that the administration comes up with for, you know, in the court rulings, you know, associated with camping on public lands.
Okay, right. Thank you. I do see that we have hands up, but I want to give an opportunity to Brianna, if you have anything to add at this point.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the update from Kyle, and it's great to have HLB ask us since we were probably sort of in the middle of this, because we have received at least 2, maybe 3 presentations on this from the companies. And if we need to make a decision, well, I'll go back to my comments that I think this falls under the improvements of HLB's parcels. So it's keeping the land even more valuable and helping the grid as travelers hopefully use this as a place to charge as they drive south or north along the corridor. And that is obviously part of their plan. But we didn't hear much objection from the presentations and good questions with follow-up, and the people that I spoke with were in favor, and people in Anchorage are also happy to hear this so that they can come here to know that they can drive their electric vehicle. Plus, Chief Weston added that they have a few employees that have electric vehicles and would be happy to charge. So if we had to make a decision, I think a non-objection would be okay to move forward, or if the decision was to wait and be after their February 9th deadline, we could have votes from other committees. But I think we did hear from the community at those presentations. Thanks, Jennifer.
I've got one other comment. Got another comment,
Sure.
Comment / question. My understanding, looking quickly at the code, Kyle, is there's nothing special about electric vehicle parking spaces. I mean, there's something special when you do various calculations in Title 21, but it's not like ADA spaces that, you know, you can get fined if you use. I don't think there's anything in municipal code that makes them special. I think it just relies on people being cooperative and not parking in front of them. So it doesn't look as if there's any more requirements for us than there would be if it was a normal parking space.
No, I don't think so. And no, we haven't heard of anything, but that could change with assembly.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some change in the future.
All right, I'd like to go to one of the members from GHEC, and I think, Crystal, I saw your hand up first.
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering, since power is going to run across Town Square, I wonder if it's possible that we could ask for some outlets to be in Town Square, because I don't think we have power, and as a user of Town Square for the community markets, you know, we basically have to rely on private businesses to provide power. So I don't know if that is something that we could suggest, or as we would appreciate it. But anyway, it's just something that I'm seeing it run right across Town Square, and I would love to have power in there. Thanks.
We do have a load center in Town Square, but to run power out to outlets, we would have to do that as a separate project, because we would use that load center, which feeds our lights. That load center, you know, works independent of what is required for this project. So if that was a initiative, wanted the service area to fund, that could be done separately from this project.
Okay, thank you. And in general, I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, and I think my understanding is these Tesla superchargers can be used. They have contracts with other auto manufacturers with electric vehicles, so it won't just necessarily be Teslas that can charge there, if I understand the agreements correctly. But one thing I would just keep in mind for planning purposes is that as there are more electric vehicles, if you have 8 stalls, what happens if you have 12 people that want to charge, and all of a sudden you have a line? I've seen pictures of, you know, locations where people are kind of waiting, and in this location, it's in a low, you know, obviously you have the roads associated with the town site that are right alongside of it, and just, you know, just for literally for, you know, if it's the spoils and successes, you would have probably traffic issues on the roads kind of surrounding the charging area, possibly. I just don't know how you manage it if there is greater demand than supply of chargers. So just food for thought. So thank you.
Two of those, just address both of those points. One is, it sounds like they would have universal plug-in there, and it sounds like a lot of the automakers are also getting on board with the Tesla connection. So that's starting to become more standard. And then the other thing is that if, for example, somebody pulled in there and had like only need a quarter charge, and then went off to the restaurant, we're gone for an hour. The way the system works is that if you stay, say like 10 minutes or 20 minutes past you're done, you start getting charged for being there. So it's once your vehicle's charged, it's within the, you know, you should be moving, otherwise you're going to get charged for staying in that parking spot.
Mhm. No, right. My concern too was just that if you have, you know, a bunch of cars, if it's summertime and it's busy and everybody wants to try and charge at a peak time, that all of a sudden you have a line going out to the road because just people are waiting in line to use the chargers, even if everybody's there. So,
True.
you know, just thought for planning. So great. Thank you.
All right, and Taisha, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome idea, first off. But my question is, you say that the power is pulling over there. Is that from the hospital? So if they have an overload and the power goes down, is that cutting out town square's power, or do they individually run off of different generators? I'm just thinking like the medical center, stuff like that. That's just my question.
No, Chugash says there's more than enough power within that pedestal to feed this transformer over here. So the calculations show that there's enough power there for that and for the clinic. And if the power went down, the clinic has its own backup generation too.
Okay, got it. Copy that. Thank you.
And Matt, did you have anything to add, or is that just a legacy hand there? All right.
Jennifer, Margaret has her hand up.
Oh, thank you, Margaret.
I was wondering, I understand the part where the vehicle pull through goes through is changed to the landscaping. I'm wondering about at the bottom part of that diagram, the Tesla equipment area and the transformer, are those large like they're shown on the graphic? Like, does that substantially change what happens there on that end?
There would be pedestals put there at that end. So yeah, within that garden area, there would probably be power pedestals that would be planted there.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a garden.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with those trees. I just think that that could change the character of that corner quite a bit unless something goes in to re-beautify it. And I was wondering about the branding. I see, you know, in the other picture, it says Tesla all over it. Is that necessarily something? I feel like that's a little bit strange on public land. It makes sense on private land. I understand that they're the ones paying for it. It just looks like a really huge marketing effort.
They're definitely investing. They're putting their name on it. So
Right.
this is what it looks like. So that's part of the thing to think about.
One comment I'd like to make is it's not actually clear they are paying for this. They're the ones the money's coming from, but they're receiving money from the federal government in order to install these. And that's what's forcing them to multi-vendor charging. So it's actually federal money, which is effectively funding the expansion of these.
Okay, Jennifer, no one else has their hand up in here.
Brianna, you're in the room now, I
Yes.
gather?
Yes,
I
I
would
am.
like to hand the chair over to you because I think that works much better.
Okay, thank you. And now everyone online, just put your hand up when you have a comment. And thank you, Jennifer. Brett has his hand up.
Right, just a quick question. If maybe screening has been thought of between the roadway and the island of chargers, like rather than, or maybe pine trees, or is there an opportunity for maybe some different landscaping discussion to happen about that, or is that a settled design?
I don't know about that, but that might be a good comment for GBOs to put into their plans there, to have native screening put in. And I would recommend spruce trees, nothing else, just spruce trees, because any other sort of, you know, thing that's brought in there just does not survive. So we don't want to put cottonwoods. They'll survive. But yeah, I think that's a good comment, Brett. I would recommend GBOs considers that as maybe a solution for screening.
Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. Jennifer?
So we have a motion on the table, right? And so I wonder about essentially a friendly amendment that says there are two concerns. Like I believe, Mike, if I'm correct, it says that we don't object to it on principle or are supportive in principle. And if we could add, we have these two things that we would like to have considered. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, what was the second one? I heard screening.
Branding.
Yeah, branding is perhaps a separate question to this. I think I would say screening definitely falls. I'd be happy to make that amendment, so I would rephrase my motion if the second agrees that we put into our response to HLB support for this project with subject to some screening around the equipment at the southern end.
Would the second agree?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. And then discussion on this. Any further?
Could I, sorry, I can't get to my hand up in time, but could I also add maybe a clause in there about, you know, based on currently available information or the current presentation or whatever? I'd like to leave room for us to have another opinion if something major changes, but as currently presented.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mike says yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
That's a good point. I agree. And just to chime in, since we have our years of expertise gardener in the room that surveys that area all the time, and also the fact that natives plants do much better. So the screening could be suggested at a later time or in that.
Yeah, sorry, screening with native plants, it should have said. I think I whispered that.
And most likely I think this will come back to the community when they're going to have to submit something through planning, and most likely it's going to come back through planning. So they're going to need assembly approval for this.
Okay. That's anything else from the board or members of the public? Okay, so we've already had the motion revised, so it's just the main motion now, right?
Yep.
Okay, since most of us are here, we could do a roll call vote really quick.
Sure. Brianna Sullivan?
Yes.
Mike Edgerton?
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard?
Yes.
Amanda Sassy?
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for taking that item up first. Kyle, was there other trajectory on what to go over next?
No.
Okay, oh, I see it here, consider and provide. So next on the order is consider parcel requests recommended by GHEC, which is way down at the, after the HLB 5 years.
Are we reviewing the HLB thing first? Because I think
I feel like we could go in order and do that first, but I didn't.
Yeah. I'd suggest we do we go through the HLB draft first and then consider the additional parcel requests.
Let's go from.
At the end of that. Because I think the other stuff.
That's what I was imagining you would do. Got this. So from the beginning, are there any comments on pages up until 16? Or no, sorry, 12.
I have a comment on page 8.
Page 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone okay with starting on page 8 that's on the board, or anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll start with page 8.
So in the last paragraph of page 8, I would like to put a comment in there, which is really a question, clarification. This is kind of very neutral language, and it doesn't make it clear what HLB's position is on that last sentence. And this has come up a few times in terms of status of some lands, particularly Upper Valley lands. So I think it'd be helpful to get clarity on whether HLB agrees with the state. It's a long-running question of land transfer from the state to the municipality.
Jennifer, did you have something?
Yes, I'm sorry. Mike, I don't understand which sentence you're looking at.
The last paragraph on page 8. The state notified, so the MOA will continue to work closely with Alaska Department of Natural Resources to resolve any remaining entitlement issues, the state's issued decision documents for several passable lot patents. The state notified HLB that for management purposes, the decision documents issued for conveyance of lands equivalent to patents and considered equitable title. I've definitely heard comments from HLB in the past that suggest they don't agree with that, and it doesn't state clearly one way or the other. So I think that would be helpful.
So I would, so we could ask for clarification on that paragraph. That they.
Does HLB agree that decision documents for conveyance of land functions as equitable title? And if so, clarify. Or if not, clarify. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. And if you've heard comments, or like you just said, you've heard from HLB differing opinions, and it is an evolving document every year. So any other thoughts from the board or objection to this suggestion to HLB? I don't see any or hear any. So we'll move on after that edit. Anyone for page 9, 10, 11? Could you go to page 12, please, Kyle? That where they talk about Girdwood Industrial Park. And this is the 2023, their summary, right? This is what they've already done, so we don't edit page, the bottom of page 12 for Girdwood Industrial Park. They're saying that's what we did in 2023. So never mind. I had an idea for that, but it's something that's in the past. But I thought that it could use something. So then when it talks about Girdwood Industrial Park next, which is page after that. Oh, Jennifer, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you know what? Let's stay on this and then I'll have something separate. So sorry about that.
Okay, so let's scroll to what their next plan is, which is 24, unless anyone has something on 13. I don't see any or hear any. Okay,
Sorry.
so I think
actually, Brianna, I should have spoken up earlier, but if we're going to kind of work our way through this, I do have kind of a question for the board back on page 6 under. This is actually just historical description, but it's the part where it talks about HLBAC and the management of that. And so I'm wondering if the board would consider it appropriate to put in a request that I believe we've already talked about having more representation on HLBAC, and also to have those appointments be from names forwarded by GBOS.
Thank you. Yes, we have discussed this in various meetings or HLB commentaries. So anyone from the board have further suggestions here?
I've got a thought on this. I don't remember if we've made an official resolution to that effect. But it's not actually for HLB it's not HLB's decision really. It's assembly decision on this. Maybe the mayor as well, if we're asking for a voluntary increase in Girdwood representation. But the composition of the board is in code, which requires at least one Girdwood member. So if we need to make a change there, it's probably a request to the assembly, not to HLB. So I definitely see an argument for making a request here, but this isn't the document it would go in. So it wouldn't actually result in any change to this document.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes, so Mike, thank you for that clarification, because yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not a HLB thing. So I guess my question though was on inherent to one of your sentences there about is this still the time? Because this also has to be approved by the assembly. It seems like as part of our official response, we could put in a reminder if it is in fact a reminder of our interest in having more representation.
So I guess my suggestion then would be We don't put it in this when it's the response to HLB, but when the HLB plan comes in front of the Assembly, I think that's a good time to put in a resolution requesting, consideration of a change in the structure of HLBAC.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we'll have to remember that too. I'm sure we will. Let's go back down, Kyle, then please, to the page 12 or 13. And I think where I was looking at was the Girdwood Industrial Park 057F. Oh wait, beyond 12. So into the 24 plan right here. So higher. Somewhere right there, 6057. So it's page 15, unless anyone has something on page 14. So we are, if no one has something above 6057F, this is, I think, where it's pretty current, where we are with Girdwood Industrial Park and what we were just told by Emma in our last meeting update. And I didn't know if anyone had anything to add here. They told us they intended to meet with the permittees and continue to with the recent and current, as well as GBOS and GVSA representatives and Chief Weston, to acknowledge the service area needs and challenges. So I just wanted to say that they've said they were going to do that, or leave it like this. Anyone have any suggestions? Mike?
Yeah, so I do specifically, maybe I don't think this overlaps with the GHEC thing, but it does overlap with a related idea of transfer of parcels. The discussion, I think last time at the MOA meeting, I said I thought there were 5 options. And that's because the other one is either a way of doing 2 or a way of doing 3, or 4, I suppose, where some or all of the land gets transferred over to GVSA rather than being HLB itself. So I think that should be considered as one of the options.
Okay, so a number 5 stating.
Number 5 would be one of the above options with land transferred to management of GVSA under the economic stabilization power.
Any comments from the board on that suggestion? I don't hear any, so I think that based on all of the history with Girdwood Industrial Park, our board would probably be supportive of something like that, because especially it's been replatted. Okay, any comments from? Okay, Crystal.
I caught the part about going to Girdwood Valley service area, but I missed how much of the land. Was there a number that was attached to that?
It's what I would suggest is it's any one of those previous options with some of the either well, obviously not the land which has been sold off to individuals. It would not be those 5 lots, but either all of the remaining or some of the remaining transferred to GVSA. So I mean, I would imagine at the minimum the tract, which if it doesn't get fully replatted, then the tract which is currently used by us and the fire department would be an obvious thing to transfer. So that's one option. The other option is under suggestion 2. The lots on both sides of the nominal extension road could be transferred to GVSA.
Crystal, do you have follow-up? What do you think?
Well, in general, I'm very supportive of land going to Girdwood Valley service area. I think that we would be empowered to make some decisions about it where, sitting as it normally does, it feels like not a lot happens. So I'm very much in favor of it. I think the whole parcel is 152 acres. So I don't know if we can, that's a realistic request. But I know that the part that is not developed, so not part of the 5 acres that are currently privately owned, is 18 acres. So I would suggest, if I might suggest, maybe putting 18 acres, and so you don't maybe have to take on the whole 152 yeah. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I think I'd like to agree with what Crystal just said. It got a little garbled on my end, but I think I agree with that 100%. And also, I'm a little bit concerned about, I think we have one of our assembly members, I think Randy Salt, might be looking at this and trying to figure out how much of this can go. I'm a little concerned with taking on some of the issues that HLB has created over here. So I like the idea of quantifying the ask fairly carefully.
Okay, thank you. With the so far discussion, I would be comfortable with the GVSA service area and fire department at least, saying something, naming those two, saying at least. Kyle?
Question. I'm just trying to wrap my head around with GVSA taking it on. So that would mean that GVSA staff would become responsible for managing that land?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to use the resource if we're going to use the power we have now, then we will need additional resources to manage land. Yes. Or we let HLB do it, which doesn't help us necessarily in the situation we are today.
Mm-hmm.
So this is part of a bigger. That's why I said it's part of a bigger request, but it is slightly separate from the specifics of the GHEC, which is why I think this is a fine time to discuss it. So what I'm suggesting is that option 5 is just another option. We're not mandating anything. We're just saying there should be consideration given to a land transfer to GVSA as well. We're not supporting that because we don't know the details.
Sure.
We're just making sure that it's listed and explicitly in the work plan. So at least it's a topic of discussion and not ignored because it's not one of the 4 things that were listed in the management plan, the work program.
Sure. No, and I understand. I kind of understand. I definitely understand where you're going with it. You know, like we do right now, through all these different options, we definitely want a land transfer of the GVSA street maintenance,
yes,
and fire department lot, which we're trying to combine together as one. So we definitely want that. It's just a different aspect of bringing on the permittee lots and having that managed by GVSA staff.
That's correct.
You know, and I'll be honest with you, it cannot happen with the 2 staff we have right now. You would have to bring in a consultant or somebody who's a land manager to handle that.
I agree. I think that's true for a lot of the requests we're going to be discussing today.
Okay.
But the point here is just to add it as another item on the list. So when people refer back to this, they can't dismiss the option of transferring land to GVSA because it wasn't listed.
Okay. Understand.
Thank you. Jennifer. Jennifer.
Yeah, I have a question for Mike. Would it maybe make sense to say what you just said? And I appreciate that clarification. Thank you. That really helps. And then maybe comma, particularly these 2, you know, to draw attention to what we most need here.
We could do. I'd like to leave it fairly open because we're just saying, you know, keep this in the list of options, but see, this is not a decision document. And we would need to know a lot more about it, and we would need to agree, and there probably needs to be far more process around that. But I would keep it somewhat general of just having transfer or having withdrawal, and then some of the land going to GVSA as being one of the options. So effectively option 5 would be one of the above options with land transferring to GVSA. Some or all of the land transferring to GVSA, but you're right. I don't think we would ever want the whole parcel. That doesn't make sense.
Thanks, Mike. Crystal.
I was hoping to maybe get a little bit of clarification. How the lot that GVSA uses now, is that considered, what do you call that? Is that that's part of tract B, or sorry, phase 2? Or is
Yes.
it not part of phase 2? Okay. And then where Girdwood Community Land Trust Connex is that is still phase 2, right? Or is that phase 3?
I can't technically say without looking at it, but I think it's all same track. So I think the phases haven't really been developed. You know, they're going off an old plat to talk about that phasing development. So I would have to look at where you guys are, but I think we're all part of the same track together.
Okay. And then I would just say, it might seem a little scary to take on more land management, but I would say like from what it takes like signing one agreement. We provide insurance, a certificate of insurance, and like a fee, and so it doesn't, and there's only like 5 permittees or something like that. So the workload it isn't that high. Would be my other comment. And
Well, it may be on the clerical side, but there's definitely pollution issues, misuse, things along those lines, which, require somebody to be more dedicated to manage that. So those issues there's definitely been misuse of land by leasees in the past, which have led to substantial cleanups. And so those type of things all have to be managed.
yeah, there's a lot going on in Industrial Park, and including the fill that was brought in, during the hangar. It was really poor fill, and so that was one of the reasons why I didn't include it in the GHOC resolution. But in general, like, I know we need industrial lands as part of how our community will function. So I'm glad that this is being discussed, and anyway, supportive of it being included. Thanks.
Thank you, Crystal. Brett.
Right. So thanks. I appreciate all the comments so far. And I think I wanted to ask that, or maybe it's just to try to understand that is there still plat action that needs to happen? Or I was worried about the liability of taking on zoning expenses and plat actions on a large parcel like that to understand how it's being divided, you see. So I didn't know if that was sort of an anticipated expense that would be coming forward, not just the management of lessees on already divided lots, but I know the lot that the service area and the fire department are interested in, a butt next to the one that I know Bob's been on for a long time. But there were some problems getting power because there wasn't final platting on the land. And I thought that's what was being worked on over the last year in the last yearly plan by HLB. So my question is there unforeseen platting expenses if we were to take on that under the entire thing under the service area, for instance? So just kind of thinking about that. Hello? Oh, that.
Did we lose the room at Girdwood?
I think we might have.
I think we did.
Okay.
And Brett, yes,
That's
I wish that they would have been working on platting in the last year. I'm not sure if anything has in fact happened or not, but the reality is that it probably cost $60,000 to plat it, and then but then I think I saw a lease from GVSA to HLB for like 4,200 or something. So how many years would it take to make up for it,
Well, fair enough. I mean, that's the other question, but at least to consider the cost that will be in front of us shortly to make that happen. But yeah, you can't get things, I suppose, we don't ask for.
So I got a message from Margaret that they lost internet and are working on it.
Okay.
I'm going to tell her we're all hanging out chatting. That ought to scare them.
Should I have publicly disclosed that I was short Tesla stock at the time I made my comment?
Only,
I don't
only
think
if you
so.
do it simultaneously.
I mean, I'm okay with the thing going in. I just don't know what happens when they go bust, but that's a whole other issue. But
And laughing loudly.
All right, they're setting up a wireless hotspot.
okay. Has the power, any idea with all that weather, did the power go out there at all in the last?
Yeah,
Did it go out, Jen? I'm sorry, yes or no?
yes, it did, at least in parts of town.
Okay.
Not right now, though. Are you asking in
Right.
general with the storm?
Yeah, no, in general, over the last, whatever it was, 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, I had
When that's-
heard it was out at Hottentot here
Okay,
recently today. Yeah.
okay. I may have to text Larry Daniels and just make sure I didn't have any pipes burst with minus 13-degree weather in my basement.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
fine.
generally everything's been okay. Yeah, just
Okay.
one neighborhood went out. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Who else is online here? We've got Taisha, and then I don't recognize the phone number.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I actually don't have the phone number on anymore. I think I just have the 5 of us.
Yeah.
Now I only
Taisha,
see 4. Yeah.
I just see 3.
You don't see the phone number anymore?
Yeah, I
No.
don't see the phone number anymore. Yeah, no, I don't. And that is only 4 of us.
Well, should we have to, that's kind of weird. Would they dial back in or would we all end up at the same spot or how, I wonder how that would work.
Well, they're all texting me, so if they need us to dial.
Oh, here's
Hey,
Kyle.
I'm here.
Hey,
There's
Kyle.
Kyle.
Kyle's here.
Hey.
So we'll try to work this. We lost internet here in the building, so it looks like it's rebooting. So we'll work with it. But we're working off my phone right now. So
Okay.
we'll see what we can do here to bring you guys back on. But for the time being, I'll put my phone here and everybody in the room's gonna speak really loudly so that you guys can hear us online. But hopefully you can hear them speaking. So yeah.
Take a 2-minute break. That way if it's rebooting, maybe it'll.
Yeah, so you hear that? We're gonna take a 2-minute break and then see if we can get everything back up and running.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
Hang on.
Temperature right now.
Okay.
What's the temperature right now? Temperature.
Okay, I think we're back. You guys still there?
Cross country skiing and races.
Because it was cold.
Yeah, I was fine.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Let's just take a minute here. Mike ran off to the bathroom, and when he gets back, we'll
There's
go back into it.
recommendations as far as,
Kyle, can you let us know who else is in the room?
Yeah, it's Brianna and Brian, Burnett, Margaret, and myself. And then Mike's in the bathroom. So he'll be right
Okay.
back.
Thanks. I thought I recognized Brian's dulcet tones. Thanks.
That would make sense why their event in Anchorage was canceled. But practice here was canceled too. But temperature.
That's strange. The first time I ever lost internet. Everything went down.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
We normally run a backup Wi-Fi too, so usually we'll pop to Wi-Fi. All right, we're back up and live.
Okay,
All right, go ahead. You guys ready?
thank you. Thanks, everyone. We had the Wi-Fi disappear all of a sudden, so we're back and let's continue on. It's already almost been 1 hour, so I know we need to keep going. And we're right in the middle, almost, maybe not in the middle anymore, of what to add for 6057, so a number 5. Is there any more discussion on
I
that?
think Brett had started his comment, but he was interrupted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brett.
That's what happened. Brett, we missed most of what you were going to say.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So I was just asking the question, what other plating actions had to take place and what that cost might be, or if we've thought about it, if that's, that's been part of the whole consideration. So at any rate, the discussion about the lot that the service area is using, or if that was the only portion, but if you're asking for a larger portion, the question was, is there any unconsidered plating action that would have a cost to it that we haven't thought about generally?
Anyone in the room have a answer for that?
Well, yeah, I think the answer may be that's the sort of detail that we don't have to address at this level. We can just have a 5th item in there that acknowledges that transfer to GVSA is an option and leave it at that, because I think there's too many questions.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. And in updates we've had from HLB, they, I think, have expressed how expensive it is, but didn't name anything else.
Yeah, I think if that option was feasible, you would want to track it out, not plat it out as individual lots, because once you plat it out as individual lots, then that starts the improvements that need to happen. But if it's a tract, then it wouldn't require the utility easements until eventually it's platted down to lots.
Thank you. Any objections to what we have discussed for number 5 and how you've had it taken notes, Margaret?
I am taking notes.
Okay, I'm sure you are. Anything else on this page?
I have another thing.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
In the penultimate item, HLB parcel 6, 11, 16 and 17, it talks about improvements to, it has that statement in there that until the Girdwood Trails Plan and Girdwood Area Plan are completed, there will be no action. But we're actually doing things now to the Middle Iditarod. I'm just trying to recall, we have both projects on the east side and the west side of Crow Creek Road. So this is basically saying HLB doesn't want anything done to the Iditarod Trail on the east side of Crow Creek Road until the comprehensive plan and trails plan are complete. And I don't think that matches reality, does it?
No, we don't want restriction. We just like going out there and doing drainage and rock repairment. With the way the statement works here, we can't even do that.
Correct. So I think that statement needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I don't think that's accurate.
I've suggested an edit that's not quite stating that, so I'm happy to have it, my edit be revised too, because I'm editing it to speak in today's terms that those plans are nearing completion, but.
I would just recommend that what we do is just ask them to remove that, because trail maintenance is still occurring. And at the moment, they're saying nothing can be done, no kind of improvement.
Any thoughts from the board on that? My other thought on this was the discussion of realigning INHT if it's required. And I would hope someone would have discussions to realign it, like the Forest Service. If that trail is needing realignment. So I was glad that was mentioned, but that's only the section that I believe they're referring to if Holton Hills, the phase 1 is messing up that trail completely or needs realignment.
Yeah, the stance from Parks and Rec is we don't want to realign.
Okay.
We want to stay as much as, and we've heard supportive language from HOB, that may be the case. So,
Okay.
yep. So we'll continue to work through that, but yeah, we don't want to rely on the project.
Thank you. Crystal?
This is jumping, it's still on this page, but a different subject, so I don't know if you want to come back to me.
Okay, I'll remember. Anyone else in the room or on the board have comments about asking them to remove this paragraph? Okay, so we have no objections to that edit. And farther down on that page, then Crystal, page 15.
It's actually one up from that. It's the 6-076, talks about the Girdwood Community Land Trust. This is the parcel in Southtown site. And I would prefer the last sentence be stricken. So the development of the site consistent with the Girdwood Southtown site is supported. So, you know, the Girdwood Southtown site is like very like the town center, right? And I would say in the new Girdwood area plan, it's, you know, most of those parcels are going to be parkland. So I would say like the Girdwood Southtown site master plan might become obsolete, especially the more that we find out about the development ability or not of that lot. So, you know, I just don't want them to say like basically development of the site consistent with the Girdwood Southtown site is supported of the site consistent. I think they actually are missing master plan in there, because otherwise it's Girdwood Southtown site is supported. I don't know. Interested to hear your thoughts on that, but and also if you guys think that the Girdwood Southtown site master plan is still viable given the new area plan draft map.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal, for bringing the attention to that. Mike, did you have?
Just a couple of quick things. There isn't a draft map yet for the comprehensive plan. There were two pre-draft maps. We'll see the draft map at the end of February. And then the other thing is elsewhere in this document, it says Girdwood Southtown site will have to be updated to be consistent with the Girdwood comprehensive plan when it's adopted. So there is kind of this indirect acknowledgement that these things have to be consistent. So maybe we could just suggest they modify that and just say development of the site consistent with adopted plans.
And that would be in line with following comment.
Yeah.
Crystal, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry that I just said, yeah, what he just said there, like basically kind of reconfirming that it will be updated with updated plans, like that would be perfect. I actually just think they actually accidentally missed the master plan part there. But anyway, that would be great.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay, we'll by sent on that edit and scroll to, anyone have something on page 15? Did I ever had something on municipal utility easements, that part? Is that necessary? Good, keep it? Does it make sense?
I mean, they'll be doing this year.
Okay, they don't need to be more specific. I guess I thought of any easements we might need in the valley, but maybe the trails plan covers those.
I think this really has to do more with easements to go across their lands already.
Okay, yeah, like Shugash or Haywood.
Or provide new easements. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind then on that. And then page 16, I have one for 6018 because it's not up to date with the cemetery design once again. We made that edit last year, so I copy pasted the edit from last year somewhere. Or we could just suggest they update it too.
I would say it probably goes a little further. I mean, we would be looking assuming, well, whether the bond passes or not, I think there's a strong argument that that land should be withdrawn to Parks and Rec, to I believe Anchorage Parks and Rec, because it's dedicated to a cemetery. I would wait until the bond passes, if the bond passes, but at that point it should be withdrawn from HLB and passed on to Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mike. In general, in that, all of those statements, I think would be a great up-to-date edit. because this, we've already made comment on last year and they didn't revise it in this draft. Any other comments on 6018 or page 16? Trails implementation. They need an update where the trails plan is currently because it's not up to date. I would make that suggestion.
Correct.
I think that's correct today, isn't it? They have a recommendation from planning and zoning.
They do, yep.
approved
Oh.
in the Assembly.
Completion of public review with a recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission for approval by the Assembly.
Okay, so it is already.
Yep.
It may be approved by the end of next month, the
Mhm.
27th, at the earliest.
Okay, and anyone on 17? 18. Page 19, I had a suggestion on the 6010, if they had an update for us on this. If they placed signs or continued to coordinate with staff or Whittier Police. But I'm not staff or Whittier Police, so I don't know.
We haven't had any complaints this year.
Okay, so maybe they wouldn't coordinate if there's no complaints.
Yeah, they haven't had they're mostly a responsive enforcement, so they haven't had any complaints to deal with at this point in time.
Okay, and I presume the signs are still there from 23, but maybe they were removed for summer. I don't know if that's seasonal.
Yeah, I don't know if they're there or not. But they did put them up in 23.
Yeah. Worth saying anything? Okay, we can always say something independently too. Anything else on 19 from anyone?
Yes.
Yes, Mike.
Under plan studies and surveys, the plan is called Girdwood Comprehensive Plan. Rewrite rather than update, but that's probably neither here nor there. But it's the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan that should be reflected throughout the document. Otherwise, we end up with it reading like it does of an area plan, which is not, an area plan versus Anchorage's comprehensive plan, which makes it look as if a Girdwood is less than. It's not. It's the same. It's a comprehensive plan.
I would add if we could suggest they update it in any other way.
Yes, it should be updated across the document, but this is the place where it's headings.
Okay. Any other suggestions for that one? Girdwood area plan update? Okay, I don't see any hands, so we'll move on to page 20 and on. Anyone have anything for beyond 20? I'm just looking at my notes. I didn't have anything yet that I can see. 21. I do have a question on 21 for 6039. Page 21. At the very bottom of page 29, it says evaluate this parcel for potential replat into residential lots for disposal. And I think that this is a repeat from a previous year also. So I was just wondering if this board wanted to make any suggestions on what kind of, because it says residential, but in the area plan, there might be another kind of overarching suggestion.
Could I suggest we have that discussion as part of considering which parcels we may want to?
Yes, okay. We'll push that to the parcels naming. So page 21, we'll talk again about parcels. And then page 22, 6075, I was just going to say thank you for acknowledging 6075 withdrawing after a while, but they're saying it's withdrawing. Because it connects more essential trails in our valley. Just thank them for keeping that.
I would agree that we should acknowledge that action and support it.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Didn't see any, so we'll thank them for that. Acknowledge that. I didn't have any other points, so if anyone else has something on 23 or beyond, or if that wraps us back to other questions. Just go ahead online if you have anything. Jack, did you have any questions for any of this? Beyond
No.
22?
I think we covered it there.
Okay.
Brianna, is there anything, are you ready to look at your original edits?
I guess so, yes. I think I was cross-referencing them.
I see a duplication in the first one, which had to do with page 16 and the cemetery committee.
Mm-hmm.
Page 16 on the trails plan, I think we have reviewed.
Yep.
Page 19 was the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've hit that, and that I think brings us to the items from GHEC. But
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we've hit all.
Yes, I think somewhere in the 5-year management plan. I was just acknowledging thanks for expressing the need of housing across the MOA and exploring nonprofit entities for partnership as an avenue. They said they want to do that in their, I don't know if it was policies or something. And I don't know where that was. Okay, so we'll go to the parcel discussion. Parcel request. What's the order in the packet, Margaret, of the parcels?
You have a
Well,
list
okay.
of them on the bottom of.
First, yep. So this first is listed here is the South Town site, then 6039, then Girdwood Elementary School track B partial, and then another South Town site and Prince Edition. We're all listed from GHEC.
It is in.
Yeah, it is. It is further down into.
So we could start in that order to include this as a comment.
So it's also included in that resolution, but I think
Right.
for these purposes.
Yeah.
So it's in that paragraph, but if you bump up one more page.
Right there, it's the bottom of that page. They're listed in order,
Okay.
but it's the same info. Who would like to start 6076? Been in the plan for years, mentioned. Any comment, Crystal?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is, like you said, we've been working on it for years. It is the only one kind of listed in the plan as something that we've been, I mean, we've got our, we have a land use permit from HLB for it. And then we have our long-term lease application turned in. So there is things happening. And basically this request would validate it going to GBSA or Girdwood Nonprofit or Girdwood Trust. So the reason why I put it in, listed it like that is to give us all the available tools, depending on what pans out better or what's most viable or what funding opportunities might come up. So I realized like GBSA might potentially have some bonding opportunities since it's government, but nonprofit has grant opportunities. So I like the idea of it being flexible. And so, kind of what comes up might be the pathway to success. And so to not, cut our legs off at the knees by leaving it open, I guess. So if GBOS kind of validated, like, yes, we're in support of either of these options, then I think that would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Crystal. And in light of the previous work that HLB and under the order of the assembly identified all of the lots developable in their survey and then responding in a way, but through our editing, including any of those could save a step from them coming to ask us again. But any other comments from the board on including 6076?
I've got some general comments.
Okay.
About generally the big list. There are two. First of all, there are two other lots that have been discussed at various points in the past. So I think we should add those in just for the purposes of discussion. We have a complete view. At times, the question has come up about the park and ride area that we discussed earlier for the charging station 6022. And the other area I've heard discussion about is 6029, which is the area basically behind 150 Hightower, Spoons, out to the all the way up to the between there and the creek, all the way up to the physical therapy place. So those two have also been discussed. So I think we should probably consider all 7. I think the other thing out of this discussion is we should probably have some kind of prioritization across them. The other thing I want to mention as well, because it's caused some confusion and problems, is I note in the packet, actually in the packet, there's the resolution from GHEC, and unfortunately it includes the phrase, therefore Girdwood Board of Supervisors at GHEC recommends the following parcels be made available for, etc. Now I know that there's an also resolved that Girdwood GBOS is going to act in the future, but people have read that and concluded that GBOS has already made the decision, and we're issuing it through GHEC. We obviously are not. So just want to make sure the record is clear that we haven't. And generally, committees don't produce resolutions because it adds to exactly this sort of confusion. And I think that helps in the future if GHEC did the same. Do a letter or a memo or something else. But a resolution just almost guarantees confusion, and we've seen exactly that here.
Thank you, Mike. So on that list of 5, we could add 6022 and 6029. Any other thoughts on those two or order?
I think we should discuss them. I don't know if we want to add them eventually. I'm just saying I think in this discussion we should probably consider all 7.
Okay. Any other thoughts about any of these? I know I started with 6076. Or if there's no comments on some of them or no objection on some of them.
I'll throw in start then on the list. 6013 area opposite Moose Meadows. It's a small lot of 1.8 acres or thereabouts. I think many people are in agreement that if we're going to do anything for housing, we should probably start with something relatively small, try and get the funding together, see success, and use that to leverage something bigger. That is the right size. Whether it's buildable or not is unclear. So I think what I would recommend is we make that high priority and get a on the ground wetland delineation done. Now, whether HLB does that, whether we have to do that, I don't know. We should try and get that into the 1-year work program to identify whether there is or how much land on that is suitable. I think for larger I'll try and go through the list here. 6039, I think, is a much larger project, but I think that makes sense for the 5-year plan. I don't fully understand the 6.5 acres for Girdwood Elementary School, so I'm hoping that maybe Crystal can say a little bit more about that. And the 2 locations on the South Town site, again, I think both of those we should look at in the sort of in the 5-year plan window.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll start with Jennifer, and then if Crystal has an answer to the other one. Jennifer.
Yeah, I want to circle back around on this idea of prioritizing 6-013, because I think that is designated open space right now, isn't it? I'm worried that while I understand the argument about the size of this parcel, it's actually well positioned to be extraordinarily controversial as well. And I don't think it is our first priority. In fact, it kind of barely made the list. It was the most controversial parcel on the list already. And we're dealing with mostly pro-development people on GHEC. So I would argue against, I would actually argue for taking it off the list completely, but certainly not making it first priority.
Okay, Margaret, real quick.
Well, I have a feeling maybe Brett's gonna say the same thing when Lynn up.
Okay, Brett.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to kind of add a little more depth to that. I mean, I know that that neighborhood was, had a lot of comments on the use of the soccer field area. I don't know if there was necessarily direct pushback other than it is designated open space. And so I think the point was brought up that the 5 million square feet of open space right across the street is significant. And I would have to offer that the smaller lot, in this case, just about 2 acres, although it might not meet a bunch of needs, it does offer an opportunity for sort of a lower impact housing available in different portions of the valley, as well as maybe a modest start. I'd have to agree with Mike that a modest start at something could be something described as attainable for the service area as far as outlining a project. So it has a lot of desirable characteristics from a development point of view. And I think that the question can be answered as to the tag of forest that's on there today and whether or not that's an administrative designation or an actual designation of very vital and critical habitat that has to be maintained when there's that much vast open space in Moose Meadows that has quite quality wetland. So I think that it provides a priority in that it's a project that we may be able to define. Whether or not it comes to fruition due to public opinion, I guess, is yet to be seen, but it does give us a good starting point to define a development project and how it might look under the service area. So I think those qualities are somewhat redeeming to at least continuing the public discussion about that lot. And those are my comments from GHEC. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Margaret?
So I think Brett and I are kind of bringing up the same thing. From listening to Jennifer, I thought maybe she was referring to the soccer field, which was removed from the list. This is a different parcel, smaller across the street. So I just wanted to clarify which piece of property we were talking about and make sure that everybody had the same one in mind. And I think I recall from the last GHEC meeting that there may be a little confusion on whether it's Girdwood open space or residential. It seems like maybe there's some conflicting information perhaps in the mapping. So maybe asking for clarification somewhere, figuring out what it is.
Okay. Mike has a quick one.
Yeah, my understanding is it is currently zoned as Girdwood open space, but we have the opportunity to completely replace that for no cost in just a couple of months. So if we are looking at change of major designation of category designation, now is a very good time to do that, because it will come for free with the comprehensive plan adoption.
Okay, in order, next, Matt.
Yeah, just want to say, I mean, I kind of agree with Mike to the extent that if we were going to start, we kind of start small. But I'm kind of personally conflicted, because if I had to pick the order or if I was forced to negotiate and leave a parcel out, that smaller parcel would be one of the first to go, simply because I prefer other sites. So I'm not saying I have a solution. In a way, I kind of feel torn, but I guess I view it as a lower priority parcel relative to the others. But again, I agree with Mike to the extent if you were to try to start small, this is the place. So sorry if I created more confusion. Thank you.
No, that's great, Matt. Thank you. Crystal?
So I'm currently looking at the zoning map on MOA. I'm showing it as Girdwood open space. I was one of the dissenting votes for this parcel being included in the land use request for that reason, because I, as somebody put it, didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze. because I thought that might be challenging to get through. So my suggestion would be that we provide a comment to HLB that recommends the wetland delineation for that parcel, and that we let HLB go forward and do that, which they are allowed to do with their HLB funds, is, you know, improve the properties, right? And then if we can have it zoned for residential through the area plan, then later do the land request for that parcel. Because there's basically two things that would need to happen prior to being able to use that lot for the housing purpose. So anyway, for whatever
Thank
it's worth,
you.
that thank you.
Yes, correct. So thank you for stating the process, Crystal, and emphasizing that and clarifying with another map view. Any other comments on so far for that 6013? Jennifer?
Thank you, Brianna. I wanted to just echo what Crystal said, but also jump. There's actually a third hoop, and that is just making sure through the process of the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan that the Girdwood community really is behind that. So I would feel more comfortable if we knew that for sure.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Did you had a question earlier, Mike, with one of those?
If that's okay.
Yes.
Crystal, could you just say a little bit more about the 6.5 acres in 6016? Or Brett or Matt?
Yes. Okay, so 6016 is one of the parcels that was identified for the Holton Hills disposal. And 6.5 acres of that parcel is zoned Girdwood Institutions and Parks. And if you guys remember, in the very early days of Holton Hills, they were talking about rezoning that into residential. And then I think they kind of gave up on that once they realized that I think they were going to have to rezone the whole parcel. And they didn't realize, they thought maybe it would be much harder to rezone 22 acres as opposed to 6.5 acres. So anyway, the point is that right now it's Girdwood Institutions and Parks. It is not part of the CY development. And so what I'm suggesting is that 6.5 acres becomes subdivided into its own lot. And so that, you know, it could be utilized, because otherwise it's gonna, if we don't do that, it'll just become absorbed back into the whole huge, quote, remainder parcel. So that's why I'm suggesting it become its own individual parcel. And if Holton Hills moves forward, it will be connected to utilities, and the road will go right next to it, actually through it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we have the land presentation, I did draw it out so you can see the 6.5 acre section on the presentation itself.
Okay.
I think you've looked at this more recently than I have, Crystal. But is any of 6016 part of the Holton Hills transfer to? I mean, the actual buildable area within Holton Hills as the latest map we saw, or is all of 616 outside of that?
No, a corner of the development goes through 60.
Okay, just the northeast corner, right? Thank you.
Yep.
Because some of there is a strip of that which is currently, I think, GR3?
Yeah, it goes from institutions, Girdwood Institutions and Park, and travels into GR3. And actually, like the whole, you know how like in the Holton Hills proposal, it's like the road that goes straight, and then the cul-de-sac that goes up to the left and curves back around. That whole section is in the GR3, and it stops where this GIP, you know, but it butts up against the GIP.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other? Okay.
I've got my question answered. Thank you.
Just to get a little bit of an indication as to where it is, you know, when you go down the water road, and then you see that utility box on the left hand side and that clearing, like that is all part of GIP.
I know which spot you're talking about in my head. So thank you. Kyle's opening it up, and then just a time check. It's 4:30, and are there more comments on this? I know that many have been at the Imagine Girdwood meetings and made comments to the land drafts, but it's not for officially drafts until later in February. But I think it's fair to make any of these, and if we want to prioritize them, we can, or for simplicity, we could list them. Are there any more comments about this list of 7?
I think we should, because it's the 2 additional lots, let's have a specific discussion about 6022 and 602.
Okay.
So 6022 is the area is the park and ride area. And in previous discussions, it's come up as something that maybe would be useful to have part of Girdwood, so we don't have this sort of back to and fro all the time with HLB when it comes to that parking lot. And I know it's in the past it's been tricky sometimes with businesses as well in town square. But I'm actually really interested, if it was going to come, it would be roads. So what's staff's thought on this? Is this a valuable thing? Would this be valuable to look at, or would you recommend against doing this now or in the future?
I say if they go with Tesla, I would rather have them handle it.
Yeah, so maybe after Tesla, we should think about it.
Yeah, see if that plays out. I mean, we manage it right now, but let's just zoom in on that.
Yeah.
We just manage the asphalt and the development here, or the landscaping. So this is all our responsibility right here. The rest of this is HLB's responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and there isn't much development value in here because of the creek.
Yes.
So the setback, and so having it stay in a land bank is probably the best because they have people who manage it better than we would.
My understanding is a lot of the other drainage setbacks in amongst the neighborhoods are also parks and part of Girdwood service area.
Correct.
But obviously that is not California Creek.
Yeah.
They're more ephemeral.
Yep. I think
Smaller.
I don't see any advantage to us flipping that to us.
Even given the park and ride complexities.
We've gotten to a management system that works well, so I don't see any reason to disrupt it. And if they are going to bring in a commercial entity like Tesla right there, then I would rather have them manage it than us.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure we had that discussion, so I'm happy if we drop that.
Sure.
The other area is 6029. So that's the area behind, on the other end, that strange
lot here.
Yeah, like something from Tetris. The bendy direction. So that currently is that's MLB land at the MLB. That's HLB land at the moment. And I know I've had discussions in the past about whether that has value. I think before the idea of having an RV park or camping down to the south of the bridge, that's been suggested as an area where potentially something like that could be. So I think that, again, since we're having discussions about parcels, we should just have at least a consideration of this, even if we decide we do or don't want that to be part of the list.
It's a strange lot.
There is access to the road, so it's close to the junction.
There's been several ideas. I mean, it's very important for us actually for snow storage between here and there that catches this whole section of town square. There's been talk in the past about it becoming more of a parking area, especially for the condos here, which have limited parking in front, and they back right across a walkway. So that was discussion in the past, and I don't think they ever went anywhere. So, but yeah, it's a strange lot. We would want to make sure that we can maintain this area for snow storage in the future.
I think when there was discussion during the trails plan work about having sort of a dedicated central location for a trailhead, that was also one of the locations that was discussed. So again, it's out of the way a little bit, but that may be somewhere where there could be some resources associated with that. It's not as good as other locations, but there isn't really anywhere apart from south of the, except for this area, basically around Eglon. So I want to make sure this is on the list.
Thank you, Mike. I like that it's really easy to access from cars, bikes, skis. You could get there easily. Jennifer.
Thank you, Brianna. I just want to point out, I think that our other parcels are all kind of aimed at housing, and this one is not a great parcel for that, unless I'm mistaken. And also, again, I have the same concerns about community support for developing this parcel. Feeling like this should really go through the ringer before we prioritize it in any way.
Thank you, Jennifer. Crystal, your hand's up.
This was one of the, when I was talking with, this is years back, talking with HLB about getting a site for community gardens, and they had proposed this back corner, kind of like right behind the yoga shack and beside the trailer park right there. And I believe it was a quarter acre, maybe it was a half acre. That was very generous of them. It was right under the power line. So, but what I heard was that the businesses weren't very excited about anything going back there. So, you know, I'm like, well, if they're not going to be happy about a community garden, it would be a rough process, I fear.
Thank you, Crystal. We could have it at the bottom of the list or for feedback, comment.
I don't think we should have it. I wanted to make sure we discuss them. We've discussed both of those parcels, and I don't have any reason to put them on the list.
Okay.
No.
And that's 6029. We just
So I've seen 6029 and 6022. We've had an initial discussion. I agree. I think there would need to be much more planning work and much more clarity on what we're going to do with it. But I wanted to be part of the discussion. So.
Okay. Does the group today feel ready to prioritize these or alphabetize them or
Well, the reason
in size ratio order? Size order? Yes, go ahead, Mike.
The only reason I'm suggesting prioritization is because the plan has a 1-year work program and it has 5 years. So we could put all of these at 5 years, or we could say if there's anything where we would like action in the next, in 2024, we should identify what the action is, and put that in the list with the intention of being in the 2024 work program. But I think all 5 should be in the plan.
That sounds.
And sorry, just to finish off that.
Yeah.
In the plan and with the intent of transferring to GVSA.
Okay, thank you. Crystal.
So 6-076 is already in the 1-year plan, so I definitely do not want that to change to the 5-year section. And then my priority would be the 6-039 be move forward for subdividing. I think that's the most viable spot we have right now for housing, because right along the highway, we would have access to sewer. It would require community well, but I actually think that's the most viable, even over Southtown site.
Thanks, Crystal. And my comments on that one were regarding what they were calling it. And I didn't know if eventually the area plan will zone it somehow or suggest zoning, and they would do the initial work. And it's already in the 1 year. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 6039.
639 was.
Is it in the 5-year right now?
Just
I
check.
think it's in the 5-year. It would be great to get it in the 1 year.
Okay, I thought I saw it on 24's list. Thanks for your feedback, Crystal.
It's in the 5-year.
It's in the 5-year.
It's in the 5-year.
Okay.
I mean, if we could encourage HLB to subdivide, because obviously as one huge 68-acre parcel, it's just really difficult to do anything with. The quicker that they subdivide that, the more helpful it will be for anybody. So, and they've got the kind of reference to replatting, but if we maybe just ask them to put it in the 1 year and then the reference to GVSA or nonprofit.
So if we agree to that suggestion, then it would be South Tyneside is already in the 1 year, you said, Crystal, right?
Yeah, that's right. I don't want that one moved. Yep.
7.6 is in the 1 year.
7.6 is already in the 1 year, so we could add 2 more to that. And then recommend that the remaining 3 go in the 1 to 5 year plan. We could do that. For our suggestions. That would make 6013.
I'm sorry, Brianna.
Yes.
Could you say that one more time? Yeah.
Yes, I was just kind of jumbling these to organize them by 1 year suggestions and then the 5 year. So 1 year could be 6076, which it already is, 6013, and 6039, and then the other 3 or the other 2 could be recommended as 5 year plan. All saying the same message. Crystal?
So the comment about 6-016, that's the Holton Hills parcel, the 6.5 acres. You know, there's like platting actions like already being done on that. So I don't know if there's any benefit to looping in with that or not. So, and it might just require a whole separate thing. But once the platting action is done, then you would subdivide it out of the remainder parcel. So I don't, you know, I could argue that you might want to go 1 year on that one as well.
Oh, I agree with that completely. And thank you for reminding me. I had mentally made that conclusion. So, Jennifer, your hand's up.
I just wanted to float the option of, first of all, I agree with Crystal about the 6016, and I wanted to float the option of 5 year plan for 6013, just to wait and make sure that that gets through as something the community wants development on.
Okay.
So yeah, I was the point about 6013 is before we could even use it for development, we don't know if it's suitable for development because it hasn't had a wetland delineation. And the sooner we do that, the better. We can either see it as we can either prioritize it as a productive use or decide it isn't going to be viable. I never heard any objection to, in all the discussion around the soccer field, I never heard any objection to 6013. I may have missed it. I heard a lot of comments about the soccer field itself, but nothing about that lot opposite. I think most people assumed it wasn't what we were discussing. And I agree with 6016. I think prioritizing that and putting it in that 1 year plan makes sense. I'm not sure about 39 because it is such a large project. And I don't think there's capacity to deal with that at the moment. Maybe next year, but it should definitely be in the 5 year plan along with the others.
Thank you, Mike. And just to chime in with the asks, and not the asks, but the continuous semi-annual asks for GIP, Girdwood Industrial Park, getting that figured out, plus any of these, we could ask for or highly recommend they do a wetland delineation for 6013 first, before putting a time on it. And I guess I agree with 6039 being quite large for them to even think about in the first year. So maybe 1.5 for that one. Jennifer, thanks.
Thank you, Brianna. I like that idea, your idea about asking for some delineation on 6013. And also, I wanted to clarify, I did hear objection to it, although it was weirdly, if I remember correctly, it was from Tomas with a resort. And so I don't know how much I don't know the rest of the story behind that. So I just feel like we have a lot of question marks on this parcel.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I feel like we're kind of looping around and we're going to have a list.
Can I kind of summarize what I think we're hearing?
Yes.
So I think what we're hearing is we keep 6076 in the 1 year plan. but consider the option of transferring it, that there should be a consideration of the option of transferring to GVSA. We basically request 6016 if it makes sense to do it coincident with the platting action for Holton Hills. And then we ask for 6013 wetland delineation to be in the 1-year plan. And then all the those 5 parcels in total, well, except 6076, which we already said separately. The other 4 we talk about transfer within the 5-year plan, potential transfer to GVSA.
Margaret?
Could you say that last bit again?
Right. So 6076 stays in the 1-year plan. We just want a comment that consider transfer to GVSA under the housing plan. 6013, we ask for wetland delineation in 2024. 6016, we ask if subdivision, if it makes sense to do it coincident with the platting action for Holton Hills, then it should be prioritized and done in 2024. The 4 parcels, except for 76, which are not in the 1-year plan, we add a comment in the 5-year plan to consider transfer to GVSA.
You mean to say 4 at the end or 3?
4. Because 6013, we're just asking for wetland delineation. We're not asking for transfer.
Yes, that makes sense.
And 6016, we're just asking for the platting action, not for transfer. The only one we can that's currently in the 1-year plan.
Okay. I think those are.
And then just to clarify something, I know it's a question Crystal's asked before. HLB can transfer land to non-profits at low cost or no cost at below market value, and can obviously withdraw land and give it to other parts of the municipality. But if it's held by other parts of the municipality, the same options still exist. It can be disposed to non-profits for below market value or at no cost if the assembly finds that it's in the public interest to do so. It's exactly the same criteria as with HLB when it comes to further disposal below market cost. So it doesn't take out any options. It just means it would be done through this part rather than HLB, which means we don't have to meet HLB's criteria of benefiting everyone in the municipality money first.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And we saw your reaction, Crystal. So looks good. Any other comments from the room or anything you have, Margaret?
So how do we go forward with this? Obviously, I'm taking notes on this. What is going to be the activity that comes from this meeting from GVOS to HLB? And now,
what have we done in the past?
Well, many years, there's been no particular comment, right? Last year or the year before, there was significant comment, and it was a long, long letter that you guys worked on a really long time. But I think that it would be good to, make sure that our documentation accurately reflects everything that we've talked about, because it's been kind of an extensive conversation, starting with the Tesla thing.
Right.
And so
I do recall in one of the suggestions was to make your comments by parcel, but that's not, and that is how the work plan's written, but I think some of this needs to be narrative form, especially the Tesla part, for example, the EV station. And we could bold all of the parcels so that they can shuffle those or insert page numbers, but I'm fine with the narrative.
Could I suggest that we put together a short letter and then use the kind of table form that they have in Appendix E to make the bulk of the comments? So we can kind of explain what the comments are in narrative form and then use the table there that you just went below.
Yeah, you don't below it. The greenish.
Sections in it. That's it.
That.
So we can basically fill that out and have that submitted as as well as the narrative form. And then I think that would be the most useful to HLB.
I agree, although it does seem redundant to fill out the form, but then we don't have the narrative to back it up.
I mean, the narrative can be relatively short, just summarized.
that sound okay to you, Margaret?
I don't know
Clear?
what you're asking me to do
Oh.
compared to what you're
Yeah.
planning on doing in the GBOS.
Volunteers, somebody else, maybe Jennifer and I, to finalize the letter, but your notes are valuable starting point.
I'm definitely preparing notes. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have a plan to get from those notes to something that gets communicated.
And it would be a summary of what we just discussed. So it won't contain anything substantially different. It will just be a short narrative and then basically this table.
Okay, that sounds good. Jennifer, are you okay with sharing that task, Mike?
Yes, sure.
Great. Okay, thank you. And then my mini suggestion would be if Margaret, you wanted to start with the table, because that's like a note form to do that narrative. Thank you all for working on this collaboratively today. And the 9th is a Friday probably. So submitted or before that week, that's next week already. So I'm sure you can work within the group to have deadlines. Is there any other comments on this item? Okay. I'll go to public comment then. If anyone's here to offer public comment, please state your full name and address, and you have 3 minutes. If it's not on the agenda. Margaret.
Not necessarily a public comment, but I did want to draw your attention to the response that you received, GBOS, from the municipal manager. Their request at the meeting manager meeting to do with non-residential taxes collected in Girdwood by categories.
Thank you for including that. That's right. Crystal, we can listen while
I just wanted to say thank you guys, and I think that like this is a really big and important step for GBOS to make, like kind of like a declaration that we have existing land needs and future land needs, and like identifying exactly where they would be. I think this is a great step forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all of your research and time, Crystal, to help with the process. Sorry, this is comment, so I'm not commenting. Jennifer.
I hope this counts as public comment. I just wanted to follow up on what Margaret said and say thank you for that reminder. And I didn't want to add it onto this agenda, but I was hoping we could put it on the GBOS agenda for our next meeting to just kind of go over that at least quickly on the public record.
Sure.
Okay. Any other public comments, Margaret?
One last item I want to bring to GBOS's attention that there's likely a conflict for staff for the meeting scheduled March 18th. And so we'll be asking GBOS to consider moving that to the 20th.
To the 20th?
25th.
Oh, 25th. So the next week.
March.
Yeah.
Yeah, in March. Okay.
Is one day after St. Patrick's Day just too soon?
It is. It's just impossible.
Just getting more busy. Okay. Thanks for that heads up also. And again, thank you for getting the Wi-Fi and getting the room set up and everyone for your time today. Are there any motions to adjourn?
Who to adjourn?
We are adjourned. 56. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.